Hey, poso ni tianak. Walking away na akayan. Mawao na totem. Mashik kayesh mamache tawak. Nage pamata sewak. So what I said is, hello, kids. My name is Ben Greeno. Walking away to my people. And I am of the Wolf Clan. And I am from the Menominee tribe. We call ourselves the Kayesh Mamachitawak, which means the ancient movers, because we moved all around Wisconsin, our original homeland here. We did that because we would do different things during the seasons. We would do wild ricing. We would do maple sugaring, fishing, all these different things that occurred in different places, special places around Wisconsin. And Aldo Leopold, the land that you're sitting on right now is a part of traditional Menominee homeland. So if you think way back, maybe a kid or a student your age may have been out hunting with their fathers or uncles in the same spot that you're at right now, or getting ready to go fishing or hunting, anything like that. So Wisconsin is a very special place to us. And I've been thinking a lot about what I wanted to say to you all, and what I would really like to do is to share a story. The way that we would educate our children is through story, and I believe that story is a very effective way of communicating the things that we want our kids to know. So we say a kunam, which means a long time ago, there was a wolf pack, and they ran through the woods, and they were running and running, and they would kind of run the same paths day after day, year after year, and they created these trails. They were the trail makers, and they did the same things year after year, day after day, season after season. They would kind of follow the same paths, and at this time, the time of this story, it was a time of the great gathering, and all of the different wolf packs from all around the forest would gather at this large giant boulder. And this boulder was a special place. It was a place where they would come and talk about uh, what was good, where the good game was, what their families needed. They would talk about many different things that occurred in a wolf's life, and they would discuss hunting grounds and where good hunting was, and sometimes wolves would need to move into other territories in order to get good game, and this is where they would come together and talk about that. They call that treaty making. In Menominee culture, we would call that a peka nakihi, which means it's when we would sit down upon the land. It was always done with a mutual respect, and it would happen through these gatherings, just like the wolves did many years ago. Another thing that the wolves did during this time is that they would recite their ancestry, and they're on this big stone were all these look like scratch marks, and the wolves would go up and they would put their claws on this rock, and it would help them remember the songs of their ancestors, and they would recite the songs. Each of their howls, that oh, had a different intonation and a different kind of, maybe there was a bark in there, but each of these is a song, and each song told a story about that specific ancestor. And so they would use that rock and those claw marks to remember that story and remember that song. And after this gathering was done, they would go off. Each of these packs would go off in different directions. And so this wolf pack that we're talking about, they started running back home towards their hunting grounds. And along the way, they went across this field that they've run past, season after season. They've run through this field, and something was different. There were creatures down by the lake, and these creatures they were stacking logs, and they were digging up the dirt, and the wolves looked at it and kept running, except for one wolf. This wolf was very curious as to what was going on. And the other wolves turned around and looked as they were running and saw that wolf sitting there, and they kept going. And that wolf saw an amazing thing. He had never seen anything like this before. There was a fire there, and they knew that fire wasn't good. It wasn't good for the wolves. It wasn't good for the forest. But these creatures had a fire, and they fed it and tended to it. And they were roasting some meat on it, and the smell was amazing. This wolf had never smelt anything like that before. And it smelled really good. And the creatures down below there, they saw that wolf sitting there, and they pointed at it. They said, "Oh, Moao, oh no, Moao." And that wolf, he turned his head like that and was wondering, what is going on? And he watched. And those people got a little bit closer, and they were throwing pieces of food at him, little pieces of cooked meat. And he never had that before, never tasted that before. He's used to wild game in the woods. And he was curious, and he went up and he sniffed it. And it smelled really good, and he saw those creatures eating it. So he picked it up, he ate it. Oh, and it tasted wonderful. And slowly, day by day, those creatures got a little bit closer to that wolf. And that wolf got a little bit more comfortable with those creatures. Until finally, he was eating out of their hand. And the creatures were stroking his fur. And it felt great. He felt wonderful. And those creatures, they really, really took good care of him. And they fed him, and he laid on their porch by their fire, and it was a good life. It was pretty good for a while. But as time went by, that wolf, he started losing his muscle mass. He wasn't running in the forest anymore. And he could hear the wolves howling off in the distance. Maybe they were on a hunt. Maybe they were singing the songs of the hunt and singing the praises of the prey that they killed, thanking the spirit of that animal for giving its life for them. Maybe it was the time of the season where they would gather together and recite the time of their ancestors. Wolf didn't understand it anymore. He didn't know that language. He had changed. So he was getting a little bit smaller and weaker, and he started getting a little bit dirty. And his fur got matted, and he forgot his language. And so one day, or one night, that wolf, or as the creatures called him now, they called him a nam, which means dog. The creatures that called him a nam, they started to kind of resent that wolf. He was kind of lazy. He didn't do anything. He wasn't as shiny and bright as he used to be, and he wasn't exotic anymore, and so they just kind of ignored him now. They didn't take care of him as well as he deserved. And so he was kind of sad, and he laid by the fire and he fell asleep, and that night he had a dream. He dreamed that he was running with the wolves again. And you know how dogs dream and they start running, they move their paws like that. He was running with the wolves, and he was singing the songs of his ancestors, and he understood. And that big wolf, that alpha male wolf, walked up to him and he said, Mawawa Katawim, Mawawa Pananichuawe. He said that in wolf. The way we understand that now is you're a wolf. You're always going to be a wolf. And that dog, he woke up and he looked around and looked at his surroundings, looked at himself, and he wondered, is that who I am? Is that who I should be? Should I start running again? Should I run with the pack? And way off in the distance, he could hear that howl. Mawau Katawim. Ow! Like that. And he stood up and he had a decision to make. Either he was going to lay back down and be among these people and get fed and get petted sometimes, or he was going to go back and follow his ways. Now, I tell that story because it's an important story for us to understand who we are as Menominee people, as wolves. I'm a wolf clan. I'm descended originally from the original wolf. Way back in my ancestry, grandpa after grandpa after grandpa after grandma after grandma after grandma, way back, it was an original wolf. And so when you guys are thinking about what Thanksgiving is to Menominee people, what the treaties are to Menominee people, all of these things are understood by us through story, through the oral tradition. Way back, there was an old man who was the educator, and he would go from village to village in the wintertime, and I think that the parents would talk to him and tell him, the things that the kids needed, the lessons that they needed to learn and understand, and after learning like a holistic idea of, which means like understanding the students' lives and where they are and where they're going and what they needed to feel safe. Once he understood that, then he could pick out the stories that he would tell, and he would add things into stories that would emphasize the importance of certain things like giving thanks, like how to treat each other fairly and respectfully, and come to an understanding that happens in the classroom, that happens in our families, and it happens from nation to nation when we're treating it. It's all the same. We have to work with each other and be respectful. We have to understand the things that each other needs and accommodate and help whenever we can. I think that's a really good start to understanding who Menominee people are, and there's no way that I would be able to give you a full understanding of Native American culture or even Menominee culture because I'm just one man. I can give you my understanding, and I'd have even difficulty doing that in a short amount of time. So I would really welcome any questions that you guys have. I will do my best to either make a recording or write a reply, because I believe that I am an ambassador of my culture to my people, to people outside of our culture. And I work with my students to become ambassadors of our culture as well. And I do that through the arts. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I please, if you have questions, if you would want to hear another story, I've got a lot of those. So, Wawanan for listening, and I'm going to keep this very short because I know you guys have a lot to talk about. So please ask me any questions you've got. Poso Kananian. We'll see you soon.